2022 should pat itself on the back since it's been a pretty top year for the gaming community. In fact, it's been such a good year that it's been tough to find 10 truly terrible games to put on this list because yeah, there have been a bunch that were disappointing for sure, but very few outright stinkers across the last 12 months. So with that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com and these are the 8 worst video games of 2022. Number 8, Lego Brawls. The first time you heard that there was an 8-player Lego brawler with over 200 playable characters, you probably thought, hey, sign me up, daddy. And since Lego titles are usually consistent, Lego Brawls seemed like a sure thing. At the very least, it was gonna be a 6 out of 10 bit of fun. Well, despite having the literal building blocks of a lucrative franchise to work with, this might just be the worst Lego game ever. One of the many brawlers like this to copy Smash Bros.' homework, it utterly fails to match Nintendo's prized beat-em-up, purely resting on its laurels. Basic, brainless controls, mundane special attacks and power-ups, it's all frustratingly lacking, and doesn't live up to the clear potential of the toy box that the devs had to work with. And the most frustrating thing about Lego Brawls is this missed potential. It incorporates characters from a bunch of well-loved properties, and somehow the gaming experience is monotonously dull and, even worse, lacking in content. It really does feel like the bare minimum, and maybe it should have taken a page from multiverses and gone free to play. Number 7, Zorro The Chronicles. Now, before a studio invests in developing a video game, they need to ask some crucial questions, like, does this game need to be made? Is it marketable? Will people buy it? And unfortunately, when it comes to Zorro The Chronicles, the answer to all of those questions is a resounding no. Now, don't get me wrong, Zorro is a magnificent character who is directly responsible for popularizing the swashbuckling vigilante genre. But considering this action adventurer was a tie-in for a French cartoon from 7 years ago, it makes you wonder what inspired the creation of this project to begin with. Of course, even then, while Chronicles does have a limited demographic, that doesn't mean it's automatically bad. I mean, niche things can be awesome. So, is there anything redeemable about this Zorro adaptation? Wait, no, not really. Based on the graphics, you'd swear you were looking at a PS2 title or worse, a mobile port. And while the game is definitely made for the youngest possible demographic, evident in its rudimentary mechanics, even as a children's toy, this thing would be disappointing. Also, it's kind of insulting the intelligence of kids by being this bad. I mean, we used to grow up with great games like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, hell, even Toy Story 2, but this can't hold a candle to even Knack. Number 6, XL. Because of the aesthetic, puzzles, and focus on exploration, XL has the Legend of Zelda clone written all over it. But hey, what doesn't crib from Zelda these days? I mean, the likes of Death's Door, Tunic, Pray for the Gods all crib from those games, and they still absolutely rule. Well, the problem with this one is just how flagrantly unfinished it is. Being one of the buggiest titles of 2022, it's bewildering to believe the game testers thought this was ready to launch, or that it had game testers at all. Graphical bugs, frame rate issues, terrible performance, this thing has technical issues up the wazoo. Without exaggerating, you probably will spend more time looking at loading screens and dealing with glitches than actually playing the game, and when you do get into the game, you'll spend most of your time just stuck in walls. This is one of those where the core ideas aren't bad, but the technical foundation just ruined the whole thing. Number 5, eFootball 2022 1.0. It takes skill to make one of the worst games of 2021, also one of the worst games of 2022. Now, while eFootball 2022 isn't a brand new release in the conventional sense, it is effectively an overhaul of the critically derided original. This was the promised 1.0 update that was set to fix the myriad of issues present the year prior and finally make this a playable video game. Think the next-gen updates for Cyberpunk. Unfortunately, despite having 6 months development time, this 1.0 update only served to remind people that, yep, this game still sucks. Now, yes, there were indeed fixes and additions in this update, but they were essentially the equivalent of whacking a load of mashed potato in the hull of the Titanic after it already hit the iceberg. Like, points for trying, I guess? While some of the core bugs were fixed, huge online features were still missing that fans expect from a sports title like this, especially a PES successor. The monetization was still insulting as well, with the core gameplay giving no reason to make people intrigued by a free-to-play PES want to spend money for their own enjoyment. The game has received other updates since, but it's this 1.0 version that makes the list here. Number 4, Crossfire X. Even though you might not have heard about it until this year, Crossfire is one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world. A massive hit in China especially, and South Korea. The first game in the franchise, which dropped the same year as Call of Duty 4 by the way, gained popularity as the years went by, ultimately becoming a billion-dollar behemoth in the free-to-play PC space. In an attempt to expand to the console market then, Crossfire X was put into production, with Remedy Entertainment of Max Payne fame on board to craft the single-player mode. Unfortunately, neither this campaign nor the multiplayer suite caught on, with Crossfire X becoming one of the dampest squibs of the entire year. Boring military shooter gameplay with uninspired level design, weapons, and a story as brain-dead as the AI. If you played this game, you'd have no idea that it came from one of the most popular properties in the world. Despite dropping on Xbox Game Pass, nobody cared, and it's not hard to see why. Like, maybe in 2007 there would have been an audience, but definitely not now. Number 3, Saints Row. What makes Saints Row 2022 generate such anger from yours truly is because it didn't even need to be a brilliant game to win me over. My expectations were already as low as at least the 5th Circle of Hell, and it dropped at a time when some competently put together mindless anarchy would have probably hit the spot. And the saddest thing about Saints Row 2022 is that it can't even achieve that. Never mind discussing its terribly written characters, awful attempts at non-stop humor, and boring set pieces that feel like they come directly from a 50-year-old advertising executive who's never owned a console in his life. The fact that the core gameplay can't even muster the base dopamine rush that this franchise usually excels in is the true crime here. Like, what were they thinking with this? The mechanics are 10 years out of date, the graphics are about the same, and this being a full-price release in the same year that we got Elden Ring, God of War, or hell, even Gotham Knights. I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. What a shame. Number 2, Babylon's Fall. Because Babylon's Fall was co-developed by Square Enix and Platinum Games, this live service title should have been a smash hit. Instead, the two gaming titans put together an indecipherable mess. Now, Platinum Game titles like Bayonetta and Nier Automata and Metal Gear Rising are all incredible. However, the team does have a tendency to take on too many projects, and as a result, have a bunch to their name that are uninspired, stapled together messes. And unfortunately, Babylon's Fall is one of these. It's hard to tell the arenas and corridors apart, meaning you're destined to get lost over and over again. Most of the enemies act the same, meaning that you never have to adjust your strategy to fight, and also it's just kind of unclear what you're supposed to do half the time, and gamers couldn't figure out the function of even the most basic items. Because of these unfixable core issues, Babylon's Fall was a travesty from day one, and because of its unsalvageable reputation, it's never reached more than 1,166 concurrent players. And if you think that number sounds embarrassing, the PC version only had a single concurrent player 2 months after release. Number 1, Postal 4, No Regrets. No, I'm not pronouncing its proper title. Postal is one of the few gaming franchises that started rubbish and somehow only managed to get worse. After Postal 3 received a pitiful Metacritic score of 24%, developers running with scissors knew they had to step up to ensure that the 4th outing turned things around. They spent time apologizing and insisting that, look, they'll never make a game like Postal 3 again. And to their credit, Postal 4 is not like Postal 3, it's much worse. Against all odds, the creators achieved the impossible and managed to make Postal 4, No Regrets, the absolute bottom of the barrel. The edgy humor is 100% dated, but even if you're a diehard for this kind of comedy, it's not even enjoyable. That's because the bugs are never ending, the AI is broken, and the constant crashes make this pointless follow-up nearly impossible to complete. Nobody was expecting god-tier gameplay here, but it's almost like it's so broken on purpose. Like, is this a joke? I have no idea. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What were your worst games of 2022? And did you have the misfortune of playing any of these? Let me know, and while you're down there, if you could, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture Gaming for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.